We're taking a look at a century of fashion evolution from 1920 to 2020. Okay, ladies, do I have a fun video for you today or what? First, I just have to mention I love history, and fashion history is no exception. And I've noticed whenever I share tidbits with you on other videos here on YouTube, from when the pencil skirt came into vogue, or maybe it's the backstory of the Canadian Tuxedo, I always receive many, many positive comments. So I thought I would devote an entire video to 100 years of fashion from the 1920s to the 2020s. Are you ready to embark on a sartorial journey through the transformative evolution of fashion over the past century? It's been quite a century. So we're gonna kick it off with the Roaring Twenties, and then we're gonna head right up to today, which is the modern era. And it's all very interesting because fashion has ebbed and flowed from flappers to power suits to streetwear, and today it focuses on sustainability. But style has always been a powerful form of self-expression and has been a visual marker of societal changes. And that's really always so noticeable when you are really looking at the past decades. I mean, even if I just go back to the 1970s and I see what was going on in society and how that really transformed what I was wearing, it really just comes into play. So whoever thinks that fashion isn't important, I hope maybe this short little video will change your mind. So we're going to kick it off with the Roaring Twenties, which brought a whirlwind of change to the fashion world, with flappers and Art Deco design taking center stage. At the dawn of the 1920s, the world was still reeling from the First World War, and this was the war to end all wars. And it also had an irreversible effect on society, culture, and fashion. So 20s fashion is often remembered for its glitz and glamour, though underlying this was a move towards simplicity in dress. And I really think that this really harkens back to the war. That was it was a very trying war, and we lost so many young men, and it just really honestly seemed kind of like a senseless war in so many aspects. But anyway, the 1920s was an era that was all about liberation, as women shed the restrictive corsets in favor of loose, drop-waist dresses that allowed for more movement and independence. Coco Chanel helped popularize this style and was a prominent designer during the 1920s and beyond. And it's interesting to note that both waistlines and hemlines followed similar, though inverse, projections throughout the decade. We saw waistlines drop until 1923, before rising again in 1928, while hemlines rose until 1926, when they started to fall again. The iconic flapper look featured short skirts, bobbed hair, and bold makeup, reflecting a newfound sense of freedom and rebellion. The cloche hat became a trendy accessory that looked best with these short hairstyles. Meanwhile, Art Deco style brought a touch of glamour and sophistication to fashion with its geometric shapes, metallic accents, and intricate embellishments. This transformative period in fashion history set the stage for the bold and innovative styles defining the rest of the century. Another women's fashion trend that enjoyed massive popularity in the 20s was sportswear worn as day wear. And we thought that that was just a recent phenomenon. I think we tend to think of sportswear or athleisure wear as something that has really just become in vogue since maybe like 1990. But it's interesting to note that sportswear had long been an acceptable form of casual wear for men, but in the 1920s, it also became acceptable for women. And tennis was the most popular sport for women in the 20s, so it naturally became the most popular inspiration for fashion. By the late 1920s, sleeveless, knee-length, shift-like tennis dresses and short-sleeve pleated tennis dresses were fashionable, and both styles are still worn today. So next, I'm really going to combine the 40s and the 50s together in one decade, and I'm really not going to go through every single decade. I'm going to jump like from the 40s to the 60s to the 80s and then the aughts. But I think the 1940s, it's really important to touch on that because that was also dominated by a war, World War II, and fashion totally stalled. And this is because both men and women were often seen in their uniforms during the war. And if they weren't in uniform, their clothing styles were dictated by rationing and utility clothing. However, a key factor in fashion stalling in the 40s was that France had long been established as a center of women's fashion design. And that came to a complete stop just 6 months into 1940 when German forces marched into Paris and began their occupation, that would last until late 1944. While some designers left Paris at the start of the occupation, many stayed and continued to design, including Christian Dior. And if you haven't watched the new drama series, The New Look, which is available on Apple TV. I highly recommend it. It's a story of how fashion icon Christian Dior and his contemporaries, including Coco Chanel, Pierre Balmain, and Cristobal Balenciaga, navigate the horrors of World War II and launch modern fashion. And I can't even imagine trying to continue your life to some respect and continue to design fashion for yourself and your contemporaries and dealing with the Gestapo. But it was in the fabulous 50s that saw the rise of Christian Dior's revolutionary new look, which was actually introduced in 1947. The new look emphasized a tiny waist, full skirts, and a feminine silhouette, bringing a sense of luxury and elegance back to post-war fashion. This iconic look became synonymous with sophistication and glamour, influencing not only the runways, but also the wardrobes of women around the world. Meanwhile, housewives embraced a polished and chic aesthetic with tailored dresses, pearls, and perfectly coiffed hair becoming the norm for everyday wear. The 1950s were a time of refinement and femininity, with fashion mirroring the societal values of tradition and elegance. And I just really like to think of it, the 1950s, because again, it's like the 1920s. We're reeling from a horrible period of time where we're losing our young men, they're marching off to war, lives are halted, and then all of a sudden the men are back and they're getting married and they're having babies and everybody's just really excited and everything's just really focused around hearth and home. So that's my very simplistic take on everything. But movies like Rear Window, released in 1954 and starring Grace Kelly, truly epitomized the new look from Christian Dior. So take a look if you haven't watched that iconic movie. I mean, it's a really good movie. However, designers Cristobal Balenciaga and Hubert de Givenchy disrupted the overtly feminine silhouette popularized by Christian Dior, creating clothes that were less structured and straighter in cut. Novel prints and colors also marked a playfulness in fashion in the 1950s. And a good movie to watch that reflects this simplicity of fashion is Funny Face, starring Audrey Hepburn. Setting the stage for the next decade, the fabulous 50s laid the foundation for the swinging 60s, space age and youthquake, where the fashion world would undergo another radical transformation. And this is a decade that I can speak to as I witnessed fashion firsthand as a young girl. The 1960s brought about a cultural revolution with the rise of pop music, youth subcultures, and a newfound sense of freedom and rebellion. Fashion reflected this shift with designers like Mary Quant and Pierre Cardin leading the way in creating futuristic, space-inspired designs. Miniskirts, bold patterns, and psychedelic colors became the uniform of the younger generation, challenging the conservative norms of the past. The swinging 60s were a time of experimentation and innovation, where fashion became a form of self-expression and a symbol of societal change. Broadly categorized, there were three main trends in the 1960s women's wear. Trend number one was early in the decade, and it was a very ladylike elegance inherited from the previous decade and seen on the likes of First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy that epitomized this look during her husband's presidential campaign and short presidency. We can all agree she was admired worldwide for her put-together, ladylike look consisting of boxy skirt suits, sheath and A-line dresses, and luxurious coats, all accessorized with white gloves, pearls, and a matching hat. Trend number two was the fun, youthful designs popularized by swinging London. The 1960s brought about a cultural revolution that was reflected in the way people dressed. Miniskirts made their debut, challenging traditional notions of modesty and femininity. Designers like Mary Quant and André Courage were at the forefront of this trend, pushing boundaries and redefining what was considered fashionable. And Mary Quant really led the way with Youthquake and all things hip. It was a phenomenon focused on youth, spotlighting music and fashion. It brought us the Beatles and the miniskirt, Twiggy and the Who. One of the most revolutionary designs attributed to Quant was a miniskirt and mini dress. And along with the miniskirt came a craze for the playful, innovative use of new materials and a focus on scientific progress. This was a decade that culminated in the moon landing. Newly developed materials such as acrylics, polyesters, and shiny PVC were used in women's clothing, while designers were inspired by pop art and space. I vividly remember donning a pair of white go-go boots, thinking I was the epitome of style at the tender age of 6. And trend number 3 was the Eastern-influenced hippie styles of the late 1960s. Hippie fashion also gained popularity with its free-spirited and carefree aesthetic. Tie-dye, bell-bottoms, and fringe became staples of the hippie wardrobe, reflecting a rejection of mainstream society and a desire for peace and love. Youth rebellion was at the heart of 60s fashion, with young people using their clothing as a form of self-expression and defiance against societal norms. This was the advent of the Age of Aquarius, which is emphasized with suede, headbands, caftans, Afghan coats, beads, I think they were called love beads, and other non-Western elements of adornment. Flowing skirts and secondhand clothing were also embraced. And if you've made it this far in the video, you might as well hit the subscription box down below and the notification bell. And there are 3 things you can do to help me grow the channel: like, share, and comment. All right, ladies. Next, we're going to take a look at the bold 80s, which marked a shift towards power dressing with sharp, structured silhouettes and bold colors dominating the fashion scene. This decade saw yours truly getting married in 1983 and becoming a young mom. It was also the decade influenced by the rise of 24/7 cable television, particularly MTV, and this is the era that saw an explosion of new trends and styles that embraced excess and glamour. The MTV generation brought a new wave of fashion inspiration, with music videos serving as a visual platform for experimentation and creativity. Who can forget Madonna's Feel Like a Virgin or Material Girl videos, or In the Groove at the end of the decade? Young girls everywhere emulated the fashion depicted by Madonna in those videos. We also saw the rise of the iconic power suit, popularized by Nancy Reagan and Princess Diana, and it symbolized female empowerment and success and reflected a shift in women working in high-powered positions using fashion to be taken seriously. Padded shoulders and bold accessories made up this look. Though the dominant trend of the 1980s was bigger is better, taffeta and bright colors, other designers emerged and created their own styles. For day wear, American designers such as Perry Ellis and Ralph Lauren turned to classic menswear styles such as blazers, button-downs, and hand-knit sweaters to create casually elegant women's wear. These styles came to represent casual American style and were adopted as a preppy aesthetic in the US. Though this decade was typified by its power dressing, the 1980s also opened with stylish sportswear encouraged by a fitness craze. Women increasingly wore stylish gym wear in their daily lives. This was captured in Jennifer Beals' attire in the 1983 movie Flashdance, and the ever-popular off-the-shoulder sweatshirts and leggings encouraged by Jane Fonda's exercise video. Anyone else remember Feel the Burn? It's safe to say the 80s was a time of bold statement-making fashion choices that embrace individuality and self-expression. Next, we'll take a look at the early aughts, where hip-hop fashion was all the rage. But Y2K fashion was really what transformed that decade. And honestly, we really had a laser beam on celebrities because they were the ones that were seen as edgy, youthful, and fashion-forward. Think Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears. We saw bright color palettes, low-rise denim jeans, sunglasses worn indoors, midi skirts, and layered tees. And as we transition into the modern fashion era, streetwear has become dominant, blurring the lines between high fashion and casual wear. In addition to streetwear, sustainability has taken center stage in the fashion industry, with more brands focusing on ethical production processes and eco-friendly materials. This shift towards a more environmentally conscious mindset reflects a growing awareness of the fashion industry's impact on the planet. 2020 was a pivotal year for not only fashion, but the world as a whole, because COVID changed our lives overnight. Stores shuttered, flights were grounded, and weddings were canceled. Alongside the shift from brick and mortars to digital became a change in what desirable clothes look like in a newly locked down lifestyle. Sales of formal wear, tailoring, and party wear fell. There was an uptick in demand for loungewear, home exercise wear, and outdoor clothing. It's still a young decade, and we're just beginning to regain our footing after the global shutdown. but I'm hopeful that fashion will inspire us for the rest of the decade. As we look toward the future, it's clear that a dynamic mix of streetwear, sustainability, and digital influence defines the modern fashion era. These elements continue to push boundaries, challenge conventions, and inspire creativity in previously unimaginable ways. Fashion is no longer just about what we wear. It reflects our values, aspirations, and ever-evolving cultural landscape. As we navigate this new landscape, we'll see even more exciting developments and innovations in the fashion world. Alongside the rise of streetwear and sustainability, digital influencers have become powerful voices in shaping trends and influencing consumer behavior. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have provided a stage for these fashion-forward individuals to showcase their personal style and connect with a global audience. Collaborations between influencers and brands have become commonplace, with social media playing a pivotal role in driving sales and shaping the overall narrative of the fashion industry. And this is where channels like mine step in, sharing style tips for every season of the year and every season of your life. In tracing the century-long journey of fashion evolution, we've witnessed the power of style to shape our identities and self-expression. From the rebellious spirit of the Roaring Twenties to the digital age of the modern era, fashion has served as a mirror reflecting each era's cultural shifts and values. As we embrace the lessons of the past and look towards the future, let us take inspiration from the iconic trends and designers that have paved the way for our sartorial choices. Let your wardrobe be a canvas for your unique self-expression, blending the timeless elegance of Dior's new look with the edgy spirit of grunge. Revolutionize your style, revolutionize yourself, and embark on a journey of endless creativity and self-discovery. As Coco Chanel once famously said, "Fashion is not something that exists in dresses only. Fashion is in the sky, in the street. Fashion has to do with ideas, the way we live, what is happening." So go forth and let your style speak volumes about who you are and who you aspire to be. Okay, ladies, I hope you had as much fun as I did taking a look back at a century of fashion. Of course, give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye. Okay, ladies, I hope you had as much fun watching the video of a century of fashion as I had putting it together. Of course, leave a comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.